Welcome to a devotion by the Black Swan himself. This is going to be a quick one. We're going to be talking about Hebrews, specifically chapter 9. So I'm going to be sharing my thoughts, my insights from it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Sometimes it's not easy to read the comments when you're on your phone, but let me know. Let me know what you think. All right. I'm just going to jump in. Might take a few people to figure out that I'm actually going live this morning. But the nice thing about going live is you can interact with people, and then also after the video is over, people can go back and they can watch this again. So we're going to be just a quick little devotion on Hebrews 9. Such a powerful book. I think Hebrews is one of my favorites next to Romans, next to the Gospel of John, next to Leviticus, next to Genesis, next to Ruth, next to Corinthians, next to Ephesians and Galatians, and next to the Gospel of Mark, next to Zechariah. I think it's one of my favorite books. All right. Let's go into good morning. Your list sounds like mine. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to say which, like, obviously you like all of them, but it seems like every time I'm in a book, I like that one. So let's go to, we're going to be going to Hebrews chapter 9, and I'm reading from the King James Bible. We're just going to do chapter 9. Then, verily, the covenant had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary. Right there, you can hang out for a little while, but we'll continue. For there was a tabernacle made, the first wherein was the candlestick, and the table, and the shewbread, which is called the sanctuary. Good morning. How you doing, Gwen? Forever Blue Roses. That's a great channel name. Autobahn. Pretty cool. I'm just sitting here right now in this 2023 Kona N1. Speaking of Autobahn. And this is a loaner from the dealership because they're still fixing my car after a month and a half, since basically November. They've been fixing my car. So they just give me loaners each time. And this one's kind of cool because look at this. This thing has got nitroglycerin right here. See this? You push this button, turn it off, turn it on. This is N1, and it sounds like a race car. The steering mechanism adjusts, all this kind of stuff. And when you're on the highway, if you think you might be in trouble for not being able to pass a vehicle because you don't have enough power, you press this one, and I'm telling you, it actually pushes you back into the chair. I've tested it out on the way to church with my wife. Just boom. It's pretty fun. Anyways, so this isn't my car, but I would like a car like this. This is pretty nice. Let's see here. I have a 2019 Kona, and I think it's a lemon. So if you could believe with me for a new car, because under the lemon law, if they can't fix it, they've spent already $24,000 on the car itself trying to fix it, and it's never been the same since we bought it. We've been just going through issues. So under the lemon law, they legally they are obligated to replace the car with a new one. So pray for me on that one, because they can't fix it. Every time I bring it in, I'm like, hey, look, you forgot something. And I'm not a mechanic. If I'm not a mechanic, that should show you guys something. So I'm not going to mention the dealership because I don't think that's fair to them just yet. But I'm believing for a new car out of this. So we'll see. Believe with me. All right. Yeah, they've not treated us very kindly. They have not. They have not. So anyways, okay. So we're going on. We're going on. We are going on. I bet you're the cool uncle. Yeah, well, I tell you what. Like, this thing is just fun. I'm telling you. Okay, so let's continue. Let's not get distracted, shall we? Showbread is called the sanctuary, and after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant, meaning the 10 Commandments. So those three historically have been known to be placed inside the ark. And we see this when, after an altercation with Israel trying to rebel against the leadership of Aaron, the priesthood, there was like 250 people that came out, and Moses said, every one of you grab your staff, and whichever one in the morning buds, that will tell you that God is for that leader. And not only did the staff bud, but it actually bear fruit overnight. So that's something interesting as well. There's something deeper going on. Imagine placing a stick in the tabernacle, and then the next morning when they go to have a look at it, not only did it bud, but it actually bear fruit, whatever it was. Apple, tree, apple, pears, don't know. Imagine eating of it 24 hours later. Crazy. And then, of course, the manna, which was provided from, you could say some of it was, like you could say it was angels' food, which is interesting. In Psalms, it talks about that the Israelites were fed angels' food. You could almost say angel cake. That's probably where that came from, angel cake. Some people would say, I think I came up with this idea, that it was actually, this is where we get frosted flakes from. So if you like cereal, frosted flakes like frost, frosted flakes. That's what was on the ground when the Israelites were gathering it each day to eat. They had manna, and then they had quail as well. But the manna was to be placed in the ark. It's interesting that not the quail, because the quail was almost like a sign of rebellion, because they were arguing with God, saying basically there's not enough meat around to feed us. You're bringing us out into the desert to starve us. It was better for us to be a slave in Egypt and have cucumbers, because their vegetables was way better than what you're treating. Because ever since we've been here in this wilderness, it's not been good. So we're going back. We're going to form a leadership, and we're going back. And then God's like, okay, I'll give you quail to eat, as much quail as you need. And it rained quail, and it was so much quail, like all that night the wind blew, and then the next day quail was as far as you could see on all sides of the camp. So they started eating it, and as soon as they ate it, it started pouring out of their nostrils. That's how much it was. Almost like, I don't know if you've ever been to a binge when you're a kid or a teenager, when people would drink so much that they would puke out their nose. It's disgusting. This is what young people do all the time. They drink till their stomach rejects whatever it is that they're drinking. And the Israelites ate so much quail that it actually came out of their nostrils. They were puking it out. They were so engorged with meat that God basically said, bon appetit. And they ate it so much, and it was almost like a punishment in some ways. So then you got the manna placed inside a jar, a golden pot, and it was placed inside the ark along with Aaron's staff and the testament, which is the 10 Commandments. So far, so good. All right. I'm just out here in the parking lot. I'm waiting. I've actually been was called from the church to we actually have a ministry where we go and pick up women from the women's shelter, and I helped organize it and spearhead it and all this kind of stuff. So somebody just called in sick and they said they can't do it. So I'm in the process of training another guy. So two of us are actually going to go to the women's shelter to go pick up these women, and then we bring them to church. So it's kind of an interesting ministry. We pick them up, we bring them to church, give them coffee, whatever, and then we take them back to the building. So it's kind of an interesting ministry. So when we started it, there was, I think, 2 people, maybe one family, a lady and a couple of her kids. Now there's like 9 people. So that's pretty cool. Anyways, let's see. And and the tables of the covenant, and over it the cherubims of glory shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly. So I think Paul was saying that because you guys are so used to milk and cookies, we can't go into this deep for you yet. I'd love to pick his brain about that one. Now, when these things were thus ordained, the priests went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of God. But into the second went a high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and the errors of his people. So the Holy Ghost was letting us know that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest. So the Holy Ghost, this signifying that the way into the holiest of holy was not yet manifest, while as the first tabernacle is yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience. So what's Paul talking about here? Well, it doesn't matter how many sacrifices you give in the Old Testament, it won't purge your conscience. It won't clear your conscience. So if you know you did something, you stole from someone, you gave them 5, you stole 1 oxen, you got to give them 5 oxen after you got caught. That's cool. You compensated for your thievery, if you will, but that doesn't clear your conscience. You're still a thief, and in other people's eyes, you're a thief as well. So this was the problem of the old covenant, is it only dealt with the symptom, it didn't deal with the heart. That was the problem. So just because you know that you have the 10 commandments in your possession, that doesn't make you righteous just because you have it. Just because I have a Bible in my car doesn't make my car holier than anything else. So it doesn't make me holier because I have this Bible in my car. It's what Jesus Christ did for us on the cross that makes us holy, that makes us righteous. Because if that were the case, if this Bible makes this car holy, then when the ark was captured in Gaza by the Philistines, when the ark went into the temple of Dagon, that should have made that place holy. And we know it didn't make it holy. In fact, what happened was the god of Dagon actually broke and the arms fell off. So just because a Bible is in someone's home, that doesn't make that home holy. And just because you're offering sacrifices, that doesn't make it so that your sins are purged with your mind, your conscience. Because why? Because the priest had to offer the same sacrifice over and over, year after year after year, when he went into the Holy of Holies. Sometimes you could sacrifice sheep for days, months, years, the same sacrifice over and over again. But that doesn't purge your conscience. It doesn't purge your conscience. I'm enjoying this coffee. Let's see here. Where are we? Which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of Reformation. But Christ, being come and high priest of good things to come, by a greater, more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, by his own blood, he entered into it once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer, there's the heifer ashes, sprinkling the unclean sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh, if that works for that, how much more did Jesus Christ purify all things? So how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. So because of what he did on the cross, he actually purged our conscience from sin. That's the key. That's what's different than the animal sacrifice, because that doesn't make you feel good when you sacrifice an animal that you raised, and then you're like, okay, I'm bringing it to the altar and it gets sacrificed, but I still know what I did. I still feel guilty inside. So I'm good for a year. So Paul is saying, how much more better is this sacrifice of Jesus that did this one time? Like doesn't have to go in once for himself, sacrifice an animal for his own sin, and then for us. That's what the priest did. So this is a better sacrifice because he did it once. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament. We'll talk about that. That by the means of death for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, the Old Testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise it is of no strength of all while the testator liveth, whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. So, what's going on here? Well, what we have is we have a testator, which is Jesus Christ. So what is a testator? A testator is someone, this is just a Bible study paper, but a testator, just pretend this is my will, okay? This is my will right here. And I write down, my wife gets, pretend this was my car. My wife gets my car, or my son gets my 2023 N1, and then my wife gets my YouTube channel, or gets my house, or our house, or whatever. Obviously, it's her house too. She gets my weights, or I don't know. Like, everything is hers already, but I'm just trying to pretend make a will. So I list everything for my kids. I say my oldest gets this, my second gets this, my third gets this and that, and you divide it 3 ways, whatever. And then my wife gets all this stuff. I'm the testator. I'm the testator. This is the testament. So when I die, whatever I wrote on here, because it was signed by me, gets presented by a mediator that reads it out loud and says, look, here's what the testament says. you get this, and you get this car, and you get this, and you get that, and the case is closed. There's no arguing about it. Why? Because it was written in here. So the New Testament went into effect. The new will, God's will, went into effect when God died. When God the Son died. Jesus Christ died on the cross. Because of his death, the will came into effect. Meaning, we get it all. We get it all, folks. We get all of his inheritance. All of it. Why? Because he died on the cross. And in order for the New Testament to come into effect, he had to die. So this is why he didn't tell the principalities, powers, rulers of the air that this is a gift that keeps on giving, because it's written in the New Testament what we get. And we get everything, not only in this world, but in the world to come. In the ages, plural, to come, we get that too. Why? Because Jesus Christ's name is above all names. Because of what he did, God the Father glorified his name above all principalities, powers, and rulers in high places. So above the higher places is heavenly places. That's where we are. That's where the church is. That's where our seat is, in heaven. We have authority right now today. You could say we have a seat at the high table today. You don't have to be there to have a seat at the high table. We have it. This is our seat. This is our authority. This is our inheritance, is to have a seat at the high table in heavenly places. It's ours today. Jesus isn't going to die again and again and again. You can't disannul this will. You can't say, no, it doesn't count. It counts. Why? Because he died. And because he's alive, he is the mediator between us and the will, to be able to explain it to the Father, because the Father accepts Jesus Christ's sacrifice on the cross. And because he accepts that sacrifice, we can go boldly into the throne of grace. It's fascinating, right? It's fascinating. The blood of the testament. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet and wood and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book. Interesting, right? The book of the law was also sprinkled, and all the people, saying, this is the blood of the testament which God hath enjoined to you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry, and almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remission. It was therefore necessary that the pattern of the things in the heavens should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. He is our mediator. That's what that means. Of what? Of the Testament, the New Testament. He's the mediator of the New Testament. He can enforce it by saying, yep, I said that. Yep, that's what I said on earth. Yep, that's what I wrote. Yep. Give them everything. They get it all. Nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest entereth into the holy place every year with the blood of others. For then he must often suffer since the foundation of the world, since Adam. But now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away the sin by the sacrifice of himself. So he puts an end to world sacrifice, meaning you could never repay your debt by killing animals, because it doesn't purge your conscience. So think about King Solomon. When he was dedicating the temple, that he built for his father David. David wrote the blueprints, and he said, here's the blueprints, Solomon. Be a man. Build the temple. So he built it, and then he said, he all right. Oh, I think we're live. Somebody tried calling me, and I guess when they call me, the live kind of cancels out. So hopefully nobody calls me anymore for a couple of minutes here. All right, so where was I? I don't know when it got cut out, but I think it got cut out when I was explaining King Solomon. He sacrificed 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. Why? Because Israel was in so much debt because of what they had done to God, and Solomon was trying to correct it by sacrificing all these animals. It wasn't this was people misunderstand that, and they say that this was a sacrifice to show God how much Solomon loved God. But in fact, it was how much debt Solomon felt they owed God by sacrificing all these animals, and they ran out of room in the Golden Basin, so he had to dig a pit so that they can continue to put the carcasses in and fill it up. So that should tell you that you don't have enough animals on the planet to atone for all the sins that you've done. There's not enough animals. You're going to make the animals become extinct for your sin. So, if Christ didn't die on the cross, we most likely wouldn't have any animals left, because if you think about it, if every person was sacrificing an animal for the forgiveness of what they've done, there would be no animals left. There'd be no birds, there'd be no crops left, nothing. That's why the Old Testament that's why it was weak. Oh, you're saying the Old Testament was weak? You're saying the law is weak? No, I'm saying it's because of our flesh that we can't do enough to repay our debt. Because if we did it, if we were honest and truthful, we would have to sacrifice an animal every single day of our life and bring it before God. And imagine billions of people doing that every day. You're going to run out of animals. So what Jesus Christ did is he wrote a new will and said, I'm going to put all my laws on their heart, and I'm going to forgive them all of their iniquities. This is all in his will. I'm forgiving them everything. I'm giving them everything. And everything that I have is theirs. All this kind of stuff. It's all in my testament. And he wrote it all down and signed it with his blood, and then died so that we get everything. We get everything one time. Meaning, you can only get all once. You don't get all again and you come back and go, oh yeah, now you get it all. Oh yeah, no, I'm holding back, but tomorrow you get it all. No, that's not what all means. People know this. In Greek, all means all. In Latin, all means all. In Hebrew, all means all. In Swahili, all means all. So you don't keep coming back going, you didn't give me my inheritance, when he gave it to you the day he died. The second he died, it became your inheritance. So he gave it all. He gave 100% to you. not only in this world, but in the world to come. Not only in this age, but in the ages to come. For Christ has not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figure of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest entereth into the holy place every year with the blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now, once in the end of the world, hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment, so Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many, and unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. What is that appearance? Well, that's our rapture. That's our rapture without salvation. So he's going to appear to those that are looking for him. This is why we're looking for him every single day. Without sin unto salvation. So after a person dies, then comes the judgment. So the judgment call that God the Father made, he judged Jesus Christ. And what did he say? Here's my judgment. You have all. You have everything now. I give you everything. Not that he didn't have it before, but you have everything. And in fact, I'm going to make your name higher than above every name. That's my judgment. My judgment is whoever you want to save, you save. That's my final judgment is I put everything onto you, my son, Jesus. I give everything to you. This is my judgment call, is because of what you did on the cross, all is for you. So Jesus' will is to give out gifts that keep on giving. That's the first thing that he did. He led the captivity captive and gave out gifts to everybody. Everybody. He never spared anything. He gave everything to everyone that believes in him. Hopefully you got something out of this today. Thank you for watching. I'll stick around for a couple minutes, then I gotta go. But any questions? Anything that maybe I missed? Sure is beautiful outside here today. Any questions? If you have a question, just put it in caps or something while I drink my coffee. And I'm going to scroll. Hopefully I don't lose my phone here. It's hard to scroll on your phone. If we killed everyone, Jesus wouldn't need to die. So if we killed everyone, Jesus wouldn't. I don't know where that came from. I'm talking about animal sacrifice. That if everyone killed animals thinking that can help, there would be no animals left on the planet because we sin so much. You have lifted up the shrine of Moloch and the star of Rephan, the idols you made to worship. Acts 7. Yeah, this is kind of that's kind of an interesting verse because I think it was Peter. Was it Peter or was it Stephen that was talking about this, where you guys have always had a stiff neck, meaning every time I punish you, like, you guys get worse and worse and worse. So I'm going to do a new covenant, a new thing. I'm going to write my laws on their heart, and they're going to know me, and I'm going to know them. They will worship me, and they will be my sheep. My sheep know me. My sheep hear my voice. Who are my sheep? Well, my sheep are those that hear his voice and obey. What's the obedience? Believing that Jesus Christ is the King of the universe, that he died of a virgin, died of a virgin, so weird, born of a virgin, died on a cross, rose again on the third day, and is alive evermore. more. The sheep follow the shepherd. A real shepherd gives his life for the flock. That's why Jesus Christ is the real shepherd. Everyone else flees. When life gets tough, the shepherds flee. They let the wolf go into the flock and take whoever he wants. But that's not Jesus. Jesus doesn't do that. So what he does is he allows things to happen to people outside of the fold or outside of the protection of the shepherd. Why? To drive them to the shepherd, because the wolves are on the outside. If you remove yourself from the safety of the flock, because the shepherd's there, the shepherd isn't outside, the shepherd's inside, you risk being harmed by wolves out there. So if you stay with the flock, wherever the flock goes, you stay with it because that's the shepherd, and you listen to the shepherd's voice, and he'll fight for you inside the fold. Outside, good luck. Good luck, really. Good luck. This is why we abide in him every single day. He's our true shepherd. He leads us every day. Leads us to green pastures beside still waters. There's calmness with him. There's rest in him. This is why we can rest in his salvation. Because remember, the Israelites fell in the wilderness. Why? Because of unbelief. So they weren't allowed to enter into God's rest, thus signifying that there is another day of rest to come. Because otherwise, why would he say that they have not entered into my rest? Meaning there has to be another day of rest. So what is that rest? Well, it's salvation. We've now entered into the rest. That's why we don't pay attention to Sabbaths, new moons, festivals, trumpets, tabernacles, all this stuff. Why? Because we have already entered into the rest. We've entered into it. Think about it from the perspective of heaven. Heaven is outside of time, okay? Earth, we're bound by time. So if somebody comes up to you and they say, you need to observe the Sabbath on Saturday, just say, well, I already observed the Sabbath, which is Jesus Christ. I've entered into the Sabbath. So technically, I am actually resting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What do you mean you're resting? Don't you have work to do? Well, if you're talking about works to get saved, no. Because Jesus paid a debt that I could not pay, and he paid a debt that he did not owe. I think that's a hymn. So what is works? Works is credit. That's what that is. So if I do something for you, you are bound to pay me back. This is what works are. So if you're doing a work expecting God to repay you, it's not how it works. He will not repay you because his son, the will has been created by his son and presented to God the Father. And God the Father said, oh, I see. So anybody that believes in you gets everything according to the New Testament. Your new will. Yes, I give them everything. Okay, I will honor that. As the Father, I will honor that testament, and I give all judgment to you, because that's what it says in the New Testament, that God the Father has given all judgment to Christ, and Christ has not come to condemn us. He came to save us. He came to save the whole world. From what? From judgment, from the lake of fire. But it's only for those who believe in him. If you believe in him, you can enter into that rest forever, for all eternity. This is why we don't pay attention to ordinances, new moons, festivals, sacrifices, all this kind of stuff. We're not killing animals, okay? We're not doing that. Why? We're above that. Because Jesus Christ became the perfect sacrifice. There's no getting around that. If you don't understand it, read his will. It's here. Read the New Testament. Read the new will by Jesus Christ. Read it. And when you read it, you'll understand that everything is enforced now by the mediator, which is Jesus Christ, because of what he said that he was going to do in the New Testament. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps. Because again, for me, once you realize your identity in Christ, the whole world changes overnight for you. But it takes a little bit of time for you to get there. It takes a little bit of digging, and I would encourage you to read Romans over and over again until it clicks and you're like, oh, wait a minute. You mean no matter what I do, he did? It's done? He died for me no matter how many sins I create, past, present, or future? Yes, because he can't die again for you. Therefore, it means that all your sins are forgiven. So maybe you should consider not sinning. You know, and I know that's a hard pill for people to swallow, but think about it. We like to apologize for our sin afterwards because we know God is faithful to forgive us of everything, including the sins that we don't remember or we misremember what we've done. We're like, oh, I don't remember doing that sin, Lord. Instead of, if you're so comfortable with the idea of sinning, then why don't you apologize to him before you sin? Because you know what you're going to do. You're planning it right now. You're planning out your sin. You're going, yeah, I'm going to go to this neighborhood and nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to see me. I'm going to watch this movie and nobody's going to see me because it's not really that bad or whatever. I'm going to watch this, or I'm going to go hang out with this woman or that person or whatever, this significant other, and nobody's going to know. So you're planning it. So why don't you apologize to God in advance for what you're about to do? Because it feels weird, right? But we feel more comfortable saying sorry after we do it. So why not give that thought that you have in your head and give it to the Lord and say, I know this is not of you, and please help me not to enter into temptation. You know, and I think the world will be a different place if we focus on what we can do today versus tomorrow. Don't plan tomorrow. Like, don't plan evil things for tomorrow. Like, don't be like that. Focus on today, because tomorrow has enough evil for itself. I'm not saying don't make plans for work or any of that kind of stuff. What I'm saying is we're so good at planning evil right now, today. We're so good at it. We make plans and we're like, I'm going to do this tomorrow and all this stuff. And then you do it and then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. It gets weird after a while. So what I'm suggesting to you is you be conscious of what you're doing and you give it to God right away. Just my thoughts, just my humble opinion. My humble opinion. Again, I'm not saying that you will never sin again the rest of your life. But perhaps today, consciously, not talking about stuff that you don't know you're doing, but there are a lot of things that we know we're doing. We know when we're sinning. We do. It's not the thoughts that get us. It's what you do with those thoughts that get us. That's the important thing. So don't think I'm beating up anyone. I'm just saying that it is possible for one day to not sin. It is possible. Because Jesus said it's not what goes into the body that is harmful, it's what comes out of the body. So what does that mean? It means that if you get a random thought, that's not you. It's just a stupid thought that your flesh comes up with, and you look at it and you throw it away. And that's it. And if you do that, for a long enough period of time, that will get you through today. And if you read the Bible for a long period of time today, that will also help you get through the day. Don't worry about tomorrow. It's today, because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. So why are you worrying about tomorrow? You don't even know. Jesus Christ can come back tonight. So whatever you're thinking about doing tonight or tomorrow, I think if you knew Jesus Christ was coming back tonight, you wouldn't plan your evil thing that you're about to do. You wouldn't do it. Why? Because now you're suddenly you have the magical superpowers to exercise self-control. But 5 minutes ago, you didn't. But once you knew the Savior's coming, now you're like, oh yeah, now I got control. So I'm telling you, use that control to not plan out tomorrow for sin. Don't plan it. Just focus on today. Today. There's enough stuff going on today in your life that you don't need to plan anything for tomorrow. And allow the Holy Spirit to work in you and through you and for you. So, hopefully this helps. Yeah, exactly. Acting them out. Exactly. That's what acting is. You're mimicking evil. You're trying to do evil. You're planning it out and then you go and do it. Whatever it is. So think about it. If you are in church all day, and we have conferences like this, if you have church all day and you're reading and you're listening to the speaker and all that, your chances of you sinning are probably next to zero. Next to zero. Why? Because all you're doing is you're just sitting at the table and you're writing and you're listening. Your chances increase of sinning after 10 p.m. to about 4 o'clock in the morning. Statistically, if you were to draw statistically the times that you fell into sin, it was most realistically the time that you should be asleep. That's usually when people get into trouble. Most likely. Like after 10 o'clock, nothing really good happens after 10 o'clock. Like you don't, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're so tired. It's not like, oh man, I have a desire to read my Bible more at 2 in the morning. I'm so tired. Usually it's like I got to turn on the TV and watch something. Or I got to check my cell phone messages or whatever it is. Whereas if you're in church, it minimizes things. I'm not saying you can't sin. I'm just saying if you start rolling out everything statistically for today, you put yourself in a better position. It's just like me going to church tomorrow night to fast from I think 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock. The chances of you sinning inside that spectrum, that 2-hour window when you're fasting is minimal. But after the fast is probably the highest chance that you're going to be attacked by the devil, meaning Thursday morning when you wake up, that's when you can get hit. Why? Because you just came off a mountaintop. You don't get attacked on the mountain, or I should say that's when you get attacked in the mountain. You don't get attacked in the valley. You get attacked in the mountain after you start coming down. That's when you get hit. So your highest alert should be the next day after the fast, because you'll be like, I fasted all week and this is what I get the next day. Like this is how your flesh kicks into high gear. So what I'm sharing with you is just how to guard yourself all the time. You have to protect yourself all the time. All the time. You have to be on guard until when? Until the day that you exhale. Anyways, I hope you got something out of this. If you have, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.